Hey everyone, my name is James and welcome back to ChippyGaming. So a couple of days ago, I was having a browse through the Cutting Room Floor, which is a website that's dedicated to cataloging and archiving any unused content that can be found within game files. Now in the past, I've made a couple of videos about unobtainable items in Terraria, most notably the first fractal and the lunatic cultist treasure bag. But thanks to the Cutting Room Floor, I now know so much more about what never made it into Terraria, and I want to talk about that today. Now real quick, Terraria.shop's big sale ends today, and if you want to save an additional 15%, be sure to use code Chippy at checkout, or simply head to Terraria.shop/Chippy, and that code will be pre-applied. So the first thing I want to talk about is a now removed projectile that was only in the game for around a month between late June and August 2011. But what makes it special is this projectile is set to make a return a whopping 13 years later. So what you're looking at here is the original mud ball. Now, as stated on the Cutting Room Floor, this was a projectile that was added in 1.0.5 and removed in 1.0.6. It's a leftover from when mud would fall if it didn't have enough support or if it didn't have jungle or mushroom grass on it. Now, I don't remember the projectile, but I do remember when mud would fall and it was really annoying. And I just find it so interesting that they sat on this sprite for 13 years because, as we learned recently, it will be a throwable projectile in 1.4.5. So the next thing I want to talk about is the Dread Nautilus, or as shown in the 1.4 trailer that I created, it had an original name, Blood Nautilus. So what I didn't know until recently is that during the development of 1.4, Realogic had trouble when considering what Dread Nautilus was going to be. In 2021, Line 4's wrote, Dread Nautilus is a tricky one because it pushes the boundaries between what we consider to be a mini-boss and just an outright boss, to the extent that we had a trophy for him and a banner because we couldn't decide which one he should be yet. But yeah, once they decided it wasn't going to be an actual boss, they swapped that trophy for a banner instead. Now, on the topic of Line 4 sharing some behind the scenes info, in 2021 he wrote, back before 1.4 I did my own sprites for a baby zombie and a baby werewolf. We ended up doing a different werewolf. I'm not much of a spriter, this was just a personal fun project. This baby zombie pet is adorable, and I really like that it's suspended in the air by a balloon. But moving on to the baby werewolf, he did write, this guy's walk animation is pretty bad. I would have needed to touch it up, but I am proud of his flying animation. Now, I love Line 4's design, and I wonder if the artist that sprited the actual baby werewolf pet did as well, because in their version, it's also flying in a somewhat similar way. Now, aside from the now removed zombie pet, which appeared in the console editions of Terraria, we never got a baby zombie pet, but one day I hope we do, because I love this design and I think it's adorable. So moving on, in the game files, there's actually 6 unachievable achievements. Now, all of these were reworked in some sort of way, but one of them really stands out. First off, you have Behind the Mask for slaying the insane cultist, a mad magician with powerful spells. Davy Jones' Locker for defeating the Flying Dutchman, the sails of the plundering skies. Winter Hearted for defeating the Ice Queen, Wicked Witch of the coolest nights. Pumpkin Smasher for defeating the Pumpkin, the spooky lord of Hallows Eve. Independence Day, defeat a mothership over mines of the Martian madness. And finally, and I don't know how this didn't make it in, knowing Relogic's track record, defeating a goblin summoner, conjurer of the darkest flames, would have unlocked a very special achievement called Hex Education. I'll leave that there. This next one I wanted to talk about because it's interesting how Relogic interact with modders. There's some unused code in the game that says for modders _ add pots to wand. And this whole thing was about pointing modders in the direction of allowing the rubble maker to place pots using different materials. I don't know if anybody ever made that mod, but I find it really wholesome that they just like talk to modders directly in the code. And finally, I want to talk about the Wall of items. So there are actually 4 of these that are hidden in the game. You have the Wall of Copper Short Swords, which is actually Red's face. Wall of Boulders, which is a giant wall of boulders. Wall of Fish, which is a collection of different fish. And finally, the Wall of Stars. Now, when I first saw this, I was completely lost as to why these were added and what the context was behind them. So I reached out to one of the editors of the cutting room floor called Kirby, and they were kind enough to point me in the right direction. And it turns out the reason why these appear in Terraria's game files is not because of a hidden boss. No, it's actually just like a little joke between the developers. So back in 2019, Yuri did say on the official Terraria Discord, "I just want it noted that it's a running joke for me to make a wall of something while everyone is discussing important topics and then splat it into dev chat." A year later, Yuri wrote, "Well, no, but the boulder wall is approaching from the west. Just had some code on hand that could serve as a nice, easy joke." Nope, that's running in-game. 20,000 boulders drawn in a small area. Better than the ceiling of broken copper short swords. Now that's everything I wanted to talk about today, but if you do want to learn more about unused content in Terraria, I'll leave a link to the cutting room floor down below. But that's it, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.